The top 5 things I would do if I wanted to change my life around. Number one, reprogram your mindset completely. Before you change your life, you have to change the way you think. A lot of people try to change their circumstances without ever changing their mindset. They want more money, they want better relationships, they want better health, they want success, but they are still carrying the same beliefs, habits, and thought patterns that created their current situation. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. Growing up, we are constantly being programmed. When you're a kid, you absorb everything around you. You absorb what your parents say. You absorb what your teachers say. You absorb what your friends say. You absorb what society tells you. And the reason this happens is because when you're young, you naturally trust the people around you, especially your parents. When you're a kid, you think, my parents know everything. My parents are always right. And honestly, that's normal. Your parents are the people who raised you, protected you, and taught you how to survive. But as you get older, you have to reach a point where you start thinking for yourself. You have to ask yourself, are these beliefs actually mine? Are these ideas helping me become the person I want to become? Are these things I want to carry into my adult life? Because something I realized as I got older is that not every belief you inherit is necessarily a belief you need to keep. And I'm not saying your parents are bad or that everything they teach you is wrong. A lot of parents are trying their best. But remember, your parents were also raised by their parents. Their parents were raised by their parents. And generation after generation, people pass down certain beliefs, habits, fears, and ways of thinking. Some of those things are valuable, but some things might be outdated. Some things might come from fear. Some things might come from limitations. And at some point, you have to sit down and analyze, do I actually believe this? I remember when I was around 16 or 17 years old, around 2019, I started becoming more focused on trying to become the best version of myself, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, financially, and in every area of my life. And I started doing a lot of self-reflection. I started questioning my own beliefs. I started asking, why do I think this way? Where did this belief come from? Is this helping me or holding me back? Because sometimes the biggest things holding people back are not outside circumstances, it's the programming inside their own mind. For example, a lot of people grow up believing it's impossible to become wealthy. Making millions of dollars is unrealistic. Money is always hard to get. You just have to work a normal job and survive. You shouldn't take risks. You should just be comfortable. Or even, the only way to be successful is to go to college, get a degree, get a good job, and work until retirement. And again, there's nothing wrong with college or having a career. Those paths work for millions of people. But the problem is when someone believes this is the only way, because once you believe there is only one path, you limit yourself. It can also be other things. Maybe you grew up constantly hearing people complain. Number two, become well-rounded in every area of your life. I would focus on becoming well-rounded in every area of my life. And I think this is something a lot of people misunderstand. A lot of people think changing your life is only about one thing: making more money, getting rich, building financial freedom. And don't get me wrong, financial growth is important. Money gives you opportunities, money gives you options, money can help you take care of your family and create a better future. But money is only one component of your life. Because what happens if you become financially successful, but every other area of your life is falling apart? What happens if you have money, but your health is terrible? What happens if you have money, but your relationships are broken? What happens if you have money, but you have no peace, no purpose, and no connection spiritually? To me, true success is becoming the best version of yourself in every area possible. You want to become well-rounded. You want to build yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, socially. You want to develop life skills. You want experiences. You want wisdom. You want confidence. You want communication skills. You want discipline. You want better relationships. You want a stronger relationship with God. You want to become someone who can handle different situations in life, because life is like a chessboard. The best move you can make is investing in yourself as a whole, not just one part. Think about it like this. Imagine someone who spends every single hour trying to make money. They work nonstop. They build businesses. They chase success, but they completely ignore their health. They stop exercising. They eat terribly. They neglect their family. They lose their morals. They stop growing spiritually. Eventually, they might have money, but they sacrifice everything else. And that's not true success. Now, I understand that life requires sacrifice. There are seasons where you have to lock in. There are seasons where you have to focus heavily on one area. Maybe you're building a business. Maybe you're trying to get out of debt. Maybe you're working multiple jobs. There will be times where one area gets more attention than another. But even during those seasons, you can still find small moments to invest in yourself. You don't need 5 hours every day. Sometimes it can be simple. 10 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes reading the Bible, A few minutes practicing communication, learning a new skill, checking in with your family, taking time to reflect. Small actions every day build into something bigger. Then later, when you have more money, more time, and more freedom, you can invest even more into those areas. It's all about prioritizing. It's about understanding what season you are in and making sure you don't completely neglect important parts of yourself. Because at the end of the day, the goal is not just to become successful. The goal is to become a successful person, someone who is strong in every area of life. Third thing I would focus on is healing. And when I say healing, I'm talking about releasing the things from your past that are still controlling your present. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes the reason they can't move forward is because they are still carrying things from years ago. Maybe something happened when you were younger. Maybe someone embarrassed you. Maybe someone made you feel like you weren't good enough. Maybe you experienced failure, rejection, fear, or something that affected the way you see yourself. And then years later, you're an adult, but that same experience is still influencing your decisions. For example, maybe you want to do public speaking, but you're afraid because when you were younger, someone laughed at you when you spoke. Maybe you want to start a business, but you're scared of failing because you remember a time when you failed before and felt embarrassed. Maybe you avoid taking risks because your past taught you to always play it safe. And the problem is you don't even realize your past is controlling your future. You start creating habits based on fear. You avoid opportunities. You don't push yourself. You stay comfortable, not because you don't have potential, but because there are things inside you that you haven't fully dealt with yet. This year, I started focusing more on personal healing and releasing things that I felt were holding me back. I started learning more about myself, my emotions, my past experiences, my thoughts, the things that were affecting me. For me personally, one thing I explored was energy healing through my acupuncture journey. I worked with my acupuncturist and focused on releasing things I felt I was carrying emotionally and mentally. It was a different experience for me, but it helped me reflect and look deeper into myself. Some people explore different methods of healing. Some people do things like meditation, therapy, journaling, prayer, spiritual practices, or other forms of self-reflection. Everyone's journey is different, but the important thing is learning how to let go. Because if you never deal with the things from your past, they can continue affecting your future. They can affect your confidence. They can affect your choices. They can affect the risks you take. They can affect the person you become. Sometimes the biggest thing stopping you from reaching your goals is not a lack of ability. It's the things you're still carrying. The fear, the insecurity, the old beliefs, the pain, the memories, the emotions. And when you start releasing those things, you create more space to grow. You become more confident. You become more willing to take chances. You become more willing to chase the things you actually want because you're no longer letting your past decide your future. Your past is something that happened to you. It is not something that has to control you. The goal is not to erase everything that happened. The goal is to learn from it, grow from it, and become stronger because of it. Because the person you are becoming requires you to let go of the things that no longer serve you. Number 4, stop playing the victim and saying life isn't fair. And this is a big one because I see this mindset everywhere. A lot of people get stuck in a mentality where they believe life is against them. They believe nothing good ever happens to me. The system is against me. Everyone else has it easier. It's everyone else's fault. And I understand that life is not always fair. Some people are born into harder situations. Some people have more obstacles. Some people have less support. Some people have gone through things that others will never understand. I'm not denying that. But the question is, are you going to allow your circumstances to define your entire life? Or are you going to take responsibility for what you can control? Because at some point, you have to stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do about it? I remember seeing this mindset from people around me. I had a family member who was in his 60s and he would constantly talk about how life was unfair. He would say things like, I'm struggling because my family left me. My kids don't talk to me. The government doesn't help people like us. And I understand that everyone has their own struggles. Everyone has a story. Everyone has pain. But the thing I noticed was that the focus was always on blaming something outside of himself. It was always, this person did this. The government did this. My situation is because of this. And I remember thinking, bro, what are you actually doing to change your situation? because regardless of where you start, you still have some level of control. Especially today, there are more opportunities than ever before. You can learn skills online, you can educate yourself, you can start businesses, you can create content, you can work extra jobs. The fifth thing I would do is develop an insane work ethic. And this is something I learned when I was young. I learned that hard work is not just about the reward you get immediately. Sometimes the reward is becoming a better person. When I was 17 years old, I worked at Taco Bell from 2020 to 2022. I worked there for about 2 years, and at the time I was making around $11 an hour. I remember even getting a raise that was only 10 cents. So I went from around $11 an hour to $11.10. And obviously, it wasn't about becoming rich from that job, but every day I showed up and worked hard. I would work long shifts. I would pick up extra hours. I would come in on days off. I would learn different positions. I would try to become better at my job. And some people around my age would ask me, why are you working so hard? You're only making $11 an hour. It's not worth it. And my answer was, that's exactly the point. Because I wasn't only working for the paycheck, I was building myself. I was building discipline. I was building responsibility. I was building a work ethic. I believed that if I could train myself to work hard in a basic job, I could carry that same mindset into bigger things later. Because think about it, if you start a business, you probably won't make money immediately. If you start YouTube, you might get no views at first. If you start going to the gym, you won't transform your body overnight. If you start improving spiritually, you won't become a completely different person in one day. Everything takes time. Everything requires consistency. A lot of people only want to work hard when they see the reward. But real discipline is working hard even when nobody is watching, even when the results are slow, even when nobody's giving you recognition, because that's how you build yourself. Whether you work at Taco Bell, McDonald's, Walmart, Target, a warehouse, a construction job, a business, a hospital, anywhere, take pride in your work. Don't be someone who does the bare minimum. Don't be someone who shows up with a lazy attitude, because your habits follow you. If you are lazy in small things, you'll probably be lazy in bigger things. But if you train yourself to be disciplined in small things, you build the foundation for bigger things. The person who learns how to work hard when the reward is small will be prepared when the opportunity becomes big, because success is not built overnight. It is built through years of discipline, consistency, and showing up even when it's difficult.